Hello guys, welcome to the knowledge domain, the concept of life sciences and biotechnology. In this lecture series, after understanding the animal architecture, its body plan and its development, then coelom and the type of the body cavities. In this lecture, we are going to focus on the species concept and the theories of taxonomy, along with the classification of the chordata and the evolution of the human. So what is a species? To define a species, there are various concepts proposed by the different people, and the most accepted one is the biological species concepts proposed by the Theodosius Dobzhansky and Ernest Mayr in 1983, in which a species is a reproductive community of populations. Those are reproductively isolated from the other species that occupy specific niche in nature. So there are two important features here. First, this population is reproductively isolated from the other population and they occupy specific niche according to biological species concept. Then evolutionary species concept proposed by the George Gaylord Simpson, in which species is a single lineage of ancestor descendant population that maintain its identity from other such lineages that has its own evolutionary tendency and historical fate. So based on the evolutionary species concept, each species has its own evolutionary history, which is different from the other species which have their own evolutionary history. So the lineage is different in different species based on the evolutionary species concept. So the identity is maintained by the way it is descendant from its ancestors. Then cohesion species concept was proposed by the Templeton, according to which a species is most inclusive population of individuals having the potential for a phenotypic cohesion through intensive cohesion mechanism. So the members of a species, they have the phenotypic cohesion according to the cohesion species concept. Phenotypically, they are similar. Then phylogenetic species concept looks like evolutionary species concept that is proposed by the Joel Craft. According to this, irreducible grouping of organisms diagonally distinct from the other such groupings and within which there is a parental pattern or ancestry and descendant. So this is a irreducible grouping based on like evolutionary concept, parental pattern of ancestry and descendant. So it is almost similar like the phylogenetic trees. Only the way the wordings are there. And after this four type of the species concept, nowadays the molecular biology in place to identify different species and separate them from the other species. That is done by the DNA barcoding for the each species, in which the mitochondrial gene encoding the cytochrome C oxidase, which has almost 650 nucleotides used at the barcode. So within the population also the sequence varies slightly, but between two different species, actually the similarity is there is no similarity, almost no similarity. So the mitochondrial gene cytochrome C oxidase 650 nucleotide sequence is used as a DNA barcode in differentiating the different species nowadays. Okay. Then nowadays, along with the taxonomy, the another terminology used is the systematics, which is slightly broader than the taxonomy. So the goal of systematic is to infer an evolutionary tree or phylogeny that relates all extant, the modern living species, and the extinct species. So the objective of the systematics of the taxonomy is that we can infer a evolutionary tree or phylogeny that relate means the living species as well as the extinct species. A evolutionary tree can be prepared, or we can derive a phylogeny. That is the goal. Okay. And these are the basic species concept. But what we understand on combining this all species concept on synthesizing a understanding on the species. So species should constitute a population lineage. So we include evolutionary species concept and the phylogenetic species concept by putting that population lineage, whose evolutionary descent is separate from those of the other source lineages. So more means this is a simple definition of the species. It is a population lineage whose evolutionary descent is separate from those of the other source lineages. And here we discuss the population. So what is a population? It is used by the most of the population geneticists and zoologists who works on this evolution and the paleontologists. So population is a reproductively interactive group of animals of a single species. So these are the means members of a species which are reproductively interactive among themselves. There is another terminology for the population use, that is the dam. So dam is geographically and genetically cohesive population that is separable from other source population. Means this is the small cluster of the members of the species. So like population, those are the interchangeable population and the dam. So we discuss species, then how the new species arises in this world. So biological factors that prevent different species from interbreeding are called the reproductive barrier. That is the reason. So the two different populations which evolved into two different species, and they have the different lineage. Their evolutionary history is different because they are reproductively isolated from each other, and this is reproductive barrier. So one of the reproductive barrier is a geographical separation. So how the species arises, that is divided into three terminology: allopathic, parapatric, and the sympatric speciation. So in the allopathic speciation, when there is a geographical barrier, so this is a geographical barrier, the two populations of the species, they become reproductively isolated, and over a longer period of time, if you put them together also, they cannot interbreed among themselves. So because of this geographical barrier, there is the reproductive barrier established, and because of that, there is the reproductive isolation happening between these two populations, and the two new species evolved, and this is known as allopathic speciation. That is possible because of the geographical barrier. Another is the sympatric speciation. So within a means population, there is a small group of the individuals who establish a reproductive isolation within the same means population, and because of this a new species arises. But this is not so much accepted, but still means it is a type of the speciation concept, sympatric speciation. So within a population there is a reproductive barrier, and because of that there is a genetic polymorphism and a new species arises. And when there is a intermixing between these two or a intermediate stage between these two, this is called the parapatric speciation. So like we discussed in biological species concept, each population, each species, means the population of a species has its own habitat or the niche. So within a population, there is a new niche established, and the population within this niche, there is the reproductive isolation, and because of that new species arises. So this is known as parapatric speciation. So what is the gene flow during the speciation? In this case, because there is a geographic barrier or the reproductive barrier, this is it means impenetrable barrier. There is no gene flow among the population. Here means it is a niche, almost reproductively isolated. So there is a small flow of the gene. Means still there is some interbreeding is happening. So that is the low gene flow. And here it is almost like a race in case of a sympatric species until now. So there is a high gene flow. So production of many ecologically diverse species from a common ancestral species is called the adaptive radius. That will be discussed in some of the lecture of this lecture series, in which we will discuss the adaptive radiation And Galapagos Island finch, the Darwin finches, means if you study somewhere, you will find this terminology of the adaptive radiation. So diverse number of the species, they evolved within a small period of the time in the geological scale. Geological scale, small time means it is few million years. This species arise within a short interval of geological time, few million years. That is adaptive radiation. So one of the example is the Darwin finches of the Galapagos Island. So Darwin's theory of evolution, there are the five terminology: perpetual change, common descent, multiplication of the species, gradualism, and the natural selection results in the speciation, according to the Darwin theory of the evolution. So Darwin theory of evolution is rephrased and recalibrated as neo-Darwinism, or it is modified to denote Darwinian evolutionary theory as revised by the Weismann. So these are the five important terminology in the Darwin theory of evolution. There is a perpetual change. They have a common descent, multiplication of the species, gradualism, and natural selection result in the speciation. Criteria for the recognition of species. So homology, the character similarity that results from the common ancestry, like the hand of the human, wings of the birds, and so they have the similar type of the bone arrangement. So this is because of the homology, or the hind legs of the tetrapoda and the tail, the hind legs of the tetrapoda, they have the common origin. So that is the homology. But in a similar habitat, if they do the similar function, it is called the homoplasy, like the wings of the insects and the wings of the birds. This is because of the homoplasy, and it is non-homologous similarity. So what is the difference between the clade and the cladogram? So cladogram is a evolutionary tree, or it is a tree like hierarchical character. So cladogram, nested hierarchy of clades, is present on a branching diagram. So this is a branching diagram, this is a cladogram, and each group is a clade. So clade put the members of a species in one group. That is one clade. So like your Amphioxus, this is one clade. Bass is one clade. So this species is one clade. So here also this each species will be one clade. And the nested hierarchy of clades is present on a branching. So this is a cladogram. So the difference between the cladogram and the phylogenetic tree is, so phylogenetic tree also you see the similar branching system, nested hierarchy of clades or the species present on a branching diagram. But evolutionary phylogenetic tree includes something extra, that is the ancestors. Phylogenetic tree has the information about the ancestors, duration of the evolutionary lineage, and the amount of the evolutionary changes. So when these things are included in the cladogram, it is called a phylogenetic tree. So phylogenetic tree has more information than the cladogram, but when we see it, it looks almost similar. That is a nested hierarchy of clades presented as a branching diagram that looks like a tree. So these are the theories of the taxonomy. So there are two theories. One is the evolutionary theory taxonomy, and another is the phylogenetic systematic or the cladistic. So on these slides, we are going to discuss the evolutionary taxonomy. So taxon is a monophyletic if it includes the most recent common ancestors of all members of a group. Like here, these are the most recent common ancestor, most recent common ancestor. So this is a monophyletic group. Okay. So paraphyletic, it includes the most recent common ancestor of all members of a group and some but not all descendant of that ancestors. Okay, of another one. So in this one you see this is a monophyletic group, but it also includes some other members of another descendant, but not all the members of the another descendant. So when this type of the grouping is done, it is called a paraphyletic group. Then there is a polyphyletic group. It does not include the most recent common ancestor. Means it is just a grouping based on the uh, present features. You just make a group, polyphyletic group. so they does not have a common ancestor. You see here. So here in this monophyletic group, there is another species, but it is not included in this one. And here also all of them are not included. So this is a polyphyletic group. So these are all the members of a species, but these are the not present in the same descendant. It is from the different descendants. So it does not include the most recent common ancestors of all members of a group. This situation requires the group to have at least two separate evolutionary origins. So this is one evolutionary origin, this is another evolutionary origin. It can be more than two. Okay, so we have the monophyletic group, which has the most recent common ancestor of all the members. So it is only one uh, common ancestor. Monophyletic one, it includes all of one common ancestry and some of other, but not all. It is para, and when it does not depend on the monophyletic, but it at least includes the two monophyletic groups, but not all the members. Then it is polyphyletic. And there is a phenetic taxonomy that sought to group species into the higher taxa according to the quantitative measurement of overall similarity without regard to phylogenetic. So phenetic taxonomy is grouping of species in the higher taxa, but it does not include the phylogeny. That is the phenetic taxonomy. So next one is the phylogenetic systematics or the cladistics. Here we have a common descent. In the previous one also we had a common descent. Cladogram of a group being classified. Okay. So this is also proposed by the Willy Henning. So it is also called the Henningian systematics in 1950. So phylogenetic systematic or cladistic is also called the Henningian systematics. Okay. So recognized by the cladistic must be monophyletic. In the previous one, we have the monophyletic, paraphyletic, polyphyletic. But in case of phylogenetic systematic or the cladistic, all have the monophyletic, which it includes the most recent common ancestors. That is the monophyletic group. And evolutionary systematics revised recently in part by the using the principle of the cladistic, this one, a taxonomy called the phylocode that we have already discussed in the Carolus Linnaeus code systems, how to name a species. So like this, there is a code, means how to name the genus, how to name the species, how to name the phylum, how to name the family, and what could be the hierarchy, whether it will be Latinized, means genus, first name, start with the capital letters. Okay, so this is the phylocode. So a new taxonomic system called the phylocode that we already discussed previously. And this is the alternative to the Linnean taxonomy, means it is actually improvised version of the Linnean taxonomy, the phylocode. So code that denote the nested hierarchy of monophyletic group conveyed by the cladogram. Animal systematic has three major groups. So we are doing the classification of putting the different animals and their ancestors in a tree system. That is to identify all species of the animals. Identification of species is important. Evolutionary relationship means who is their ancestors, when they branched, when they separated, how they evolved. So evolutionary relationship. And to group animal species hierarchically in taxonomic group. So these are the three important things. This is to come with the evolutionary relationship. Identification, evolutionary relationship, and grouping them according to the hierarchy. That gives us information about the evolutionary relationship. So considering the evolutionary relationship, based on the character of the species, we need to put them in a tree-like form or in a cladogram. Then it is a systematics. These are the objective of the systematics. So, in the classification system, we have discussed previously the two kingdom classification, three kingdom classification, five kingdom classification, and we had a means a basic understanding of the three domain classification. So this is three domain classification is proposed by the Woods, Candler, and the Willis in 1990. So in this one, we discussed previously the monophyletic group, right? So three monophyletic domains above the kingdom level. So in the five kingdom classification, we have the kingdom at the top of the hierarchy. So in this classification, there is another taxons above the kingdom, that is the domain. Okay, and it is three monophyletic according to the based on the common ancestry. So bacteria, archaea, and the eukarya. These are the three domains. So in this eukarya, you can see the plants, animals, fungi. So these are the three kingdoms present in the Whitaker five kingdom classification. Right? Along with it, based on their common features, there are the other groupings happen like the diplomonads, trichomonads, flagellates, ciliates, then slime molds, and entamoeba in the 8 eukarya. So they have now similar positions in the classification system along with the plants, animal, and fungi who were enjoying the kingdom status in the five kingdom Whitaker classification systems. So now they are sharing the position of the ciliates, flagellates, trichomonads, diplomonads, slime molds, and entamoeba. Similarly, we have in archaea and the bacteria. So what are the important features we need to remember here? Prokaryote differing from the bacteria, the archaea, and how they are differ based on the membrane structure that we have discussed based on the peptidoglycogen and the sequence of the ribosomal RNA in the previous slides where we discussed the taxonomy. And Monera and Protista are paraphyletic group because they include one group of common ancestry and some members of the another group. That's why it is a paraphyletic group, Monera and the Protista. So these are according to the Whitaker. Nowadays it does not exist on the three domain classification, but the two kingdoms of the Whitaker, Monera and Protista are now in the paraphyletic group. Okay. Now some important things to consider is calling unicellular eukaryotes protozoans or the protistans should be resistant. Now we should not call the unicellular eukaryotes are protozoans or the protistans. And before we were using the metazoa classification, means metazoa as a taxon. Now it is archaic, it is synonymous to animals. So metazoan is synonymous to animals and we should resist saying the protozoans or the protistans. Okay. So based on the present classification, there are the 34 phylum of the animal means animal kingdom. Whatever we saw the animal. After the eukarya, there is one animal kingdom. So in that we have the 34 phylums. So in this 34 phylum, Placozoa, Porifera, Cnidarians, Ctenophora, if you remove this 4 phylum, the remaining 30 phylums are all showing bilateral symmetry. So they are bilateral. So 30 phylum of the animals are the bilateral. So based on the blastopore, whether they are forming the mouth or blastopore forming the anus, it is further divided into the two taxons. One is Protostomia, another is the Deuterostomia. So in the Deuterostomia, blastopore developed into the anus. And the phylum are the three: Chordata, Hemichordata, and the Echinodermata. These are the Deuterostomia. So there are 27 phylum in the Protostomia. So Protostomia has one phylum, that is Chaetognatha or the Chaetognatha. So remaining 26 are divided into Lophotropozoa and the Ecdysozoa. So these are the taxons. Those do not get the names like the kingdom or the phylum. What are they? Bilateria, then Protostomia, Lophotropozoa, and the Ecdysozoa. 1, 2, 3, 4, and the 5. So these are the 5 taxons that is following the kingdom. But they don't have any names like the kingdom, phylum, class, or we don't have systematic names for them. They're just the grouping of the taxons. So these are the other 26 phylum like the Asilomorpha, Geno, Torvilletida, Platyhelminthes, Nemertea, Rutifera, Mesozoa, Gastrotricha, Acanthocephala, Mollusca annelida, Echaiurida, Siphunculida, Coronida, Ectoprocta, Entoprocta, Gnathostomelida, Micrognathozoa, and the Brachiopoda are in the Lophotropozoa, and the Ecdysozoa include the phylum Cynorhyncha, Nematoda, Nematomorpha, Priapolida, Arthropoda, Tardigrada, Onychophora, and the Loricifera. So there are 34 in total. Okay. Next, this is the means how we make a cladogram or the phylogenetic tree for the different classes. This is up to the classes of the Chordata, that is a phylum. So this is the phylum Chordata. Okay. So this is the stalk Chordata. These are the characters of the Chordata. Notochord is there, dorsal hollow notochord is there, pharyngeal gill slits is there, postnatal tail is there, endostyle is there. So 5 characters of the chordate. After these 5 characters, it is split into 2. In one, there the neural crest is developed. And when it is the neural crest is developed, then it is becoming the another taxons. And after the neural crest, it is further divided into the distinct head with the brain and the cranium. So brain box is there. So when there is a brain box, this is all vertebrates. And before vertebrate or the vertebrata, we have the protochordata. So in the urochordata, we have the neural crest. In case of the cephalochordata, this is only showing the chordate characters. So urochordata is an additional character, that is the neural crest. Okay. Next is this one, vertebrata or the vertebrate. So these are the characters of the vertebrate. In this case, there are the 2 types of the animals. One is the cyclostomata and ostracoderms. They all are extinct. So in the ostracoderms, the dermis with bones are developed. Okay. Then there's a jaw, means the gnatostomata, the vertebrate with the jaw. So jaw is developed. Then in the ear, there are 3 pairs of the semicircular canals, pair appendages, gill filaments lateral to gill supports. So when these are developed, we get the another type of the fishes, chondric thighs. So after that, the long and the swim bladder are developed. Because of that, we have the actinopterygi, that is the rib fin fishes or the bony fishes. After that, the unique supportive elements in the skeleton, the girdles or the appendages. Once it is developed, we have the lobe fin fishes, right? Then after this, we have the paired limbs used for the terrestrial locomotion. So from here onwards, all are tetrapoda. Then embryo with the amnion, these all are amniota. Then the skull with the upper and the lower temporal fenestra, beta keratin in the epidermis. This is present in the Lepidosuria and the testudine. These both are the reptiles. Crocodile is also reptiles, and the aves. So in case of the mammals and this group, this is the difference in the mammals. We have the mammary gland developed. So mammals is separated from these reptiles and the birds. So this is the grouping. So it is a cladogram plus the additional characters that determines how the evolution evolved with time. So it's a phylogenetic tree. So we have discussed the chordata. So the chordata is the phylum. So that is divided into protochordata and the vertebrata. The characters already discussed earlier. In the protochordata, we have 2 cephalochordata, and this is with the neural crest, the urochordata. So then the remaining is the vertebrata, because they have the vertebral column or the cranium box is there. This vertebrate can be divided into 2 ways according to the presence absence of the jaws ignatha, the presence of the jaws, or without amnion and the with amnion. So without jaws are the 2. This is the hagfish or the myxini and the petromydon. So this was there in the previous slide. And remaining all are with the with jaws. Okay. Then this gnatostomata or the with jaws is divided into one is the pisces, another is the tetrapoda. So the chondric thighs and the ostick thighs means this is the cartilaginous fishes and the bony fishes are the pisces, and the remaining are the tetrapoda. So this is the classification of the chordate, simple classification. Next, this is the evolution of the human. So human life or the first human evolved around 6.5 million years ago. but the credit of the first human goes to the Ardipithecus ramidus. Its brain size is 300 to 350 centimeters square, and it is almost 1.2 meter in length. It is almost 5 to 4.4 million years old. This is the first human. But the most celebrated human is the Australopithecus afarensis. It has having almost slightly bigger brain box or the brain size, and this is almost 3.6 to 2.9 million years ago. It is slightly taller than the Ardipithecus. This is the most celebrated one, and the Lucy, the one that is first identified, is named as Lucy. So this is the second human. The third one is the Australopithecus africanus. So, and this is the first Homo. The Homo habilis is the first Homo. The brain size is 510 to 600, and this is almost 2.8 to 1.6 million years ago. And Homo habilis means the handyman, and it is 1.11 to 1.35 meter. So after that, this is the Homo erectus, that is almost 1.5 to 1.9 meter. Then we have the after the Homo erectus, almost 800,000 years ago, the modern human. They are separated from the Homo erectus, and this is called the Homo heidelbergensis. This is the modern human 800,000 years ago. Okay. Then almost 200,000 years ago, there are the modern human is separated. The two, one is the Neanderthalensis, that occupy the space in the Europe, and in the Africa it is the Homo sapien. So the brain size is 1400 to 1650 in case of the Neanderthal, and in case of the Homo sapien it is 1100 to 1700. So Neanderthal has a bigger brain than the Homo sapien, and the time is 200 to 30,000. They disappear Neanderthal almost 30,000 years ago, whereas the Homo sapien is still present. But there is another species, that is the Denisovans. That is a species that is produced because of the interbreeding between the Neanderthals and Homo sapiens. This is also a hypothesis. So this is the way the modern human is evolved. Thank you.